as leaders, we can become very isolated and we feel like we're kind of on our own trying to figure this out. But it's always good to know that other people are going through some of the same struggles we are. And even though a company looks amazing from the outside, which often it is, overall, it's successful. Every company has challenges. And it's good to know that. It's good to realize that. And it's very refreshing to have a leader like Will Robinson from Encapture come on the show and share it. They're very successful. He's doing great. He's an amazing leader. But of course, there's always challenges. And for him to come in and share these challenges is great to hear. So if you're facing some of these ups and downs, roller coasters, definitely give this a listen, because we'll give some advice on what he did that helped him get past some early challenges and some things that he's doing currently that are getting him to the next level. So great stuff here. Definitely listen to this one.
Welcome to Scale Your SaaS, the podcast that gives you proven techniques and formulas for boosting your revenue and achieving your dream exit. Brought to you by a guy who's done just that multiple times. Here's your host, Matt Wolach.
And welcome to Scale Your SaaS. Thank you very much for joining us today. Really happy to have you here. I want to make sure if you are new to the show, we are here to help you understand how to grow your business, get to those amazing goals that you've set, and scale your SaaS, just like it says. So if that's something you want, hit the subscribe button right now. Subscribe to this show so you get notified of any new updates. We talk to amazing leaders from around the world of SaaS every single week, and you do not want to miss out. And one of those amazing leaders we have with us today, and I'm super pumped about it, I've got Will Robinson with me. Will, how you doing?
Hey, Matt. Doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Really glad that you're here. Let me make sure everybody knows who you are, Will. So Will is the CEO at Encapture. Encapture is a SaaS platform that helps banks automatically extract important information from documents. He has assembled a strong team of individuals who share his passion for fintech and AI banking, ensuring sustainable growth and innovation. He leads Encapture with emphasis and passion for company culture and setting a high standard of excellence for a team that is constantly learning and excelling. He's absolutely a dynamic, great leader, and I'm loving that he's here with us. So, Will, thanks again for coming on the show.
Absolutely, Matt. I appreciate the intro, man. I wish I could hear that every morning when I woke up. That starts the day.
Awesome. Nice way to get you pumped up. Well, that's great. I'm glad that helps. So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing lately and what's coming up.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Encapture sells into banks and lenders, and we, as you can imagine, selling into banking right now, it's a whole different ballgame than it was a year or two ago. We're coming off a period where interest rates were super low. There were a lot of people getting loans, whether those were mortgages or commercial loans or auto loans, and banks were super, super busy, and they needed ways to be more efficient. And that's what our software does. It helps them be a lot more efficient in the back office and process paperwork. So, we're coming off a period where interest rates are now higher. People are not moving or selling their houses. They're not buying new houses. They're not buying as many cars. Banks are struggling. I mean, you've seen kind of the issues with Silicon Valley Bank and some of the flight of deposits. So it's a really interesting time to be selling into banks. And I think it's forced us as a company to say, hey, how can we still create a message that resonates? These banks still spend money, but it's what are they spending money on and what's their focus and their priority in these challenging times? And how can we help them solve their problems in a way that allows us to continue to grow like we want to through maybe a tougher market?
Yeah, definitely. I can see that change is happening right now. Even me on the outside seeing it all go down. But I want to ask you, so banks, there's a lot of different kinds of banks. You've got the local community banks. You've got big international organizations. Have you set up a process within your sales that kind of differentiates on how you sell to those different types of and different sizes of organization?
Yeah, it's a great question. Banks and, banks are a unique industry. It's an enterprise motion, whether they're at your small local community bank or it's a Wells Fargo. There's, typically buying software is a committee process. There's your line of business champion that's usually owning a specific part of the branch that they're responsible for, where your software is going to help. But then there's an IT group that's responsible for helping to implement it, making sure it's hooked up to the other systems within the bank. And so, whether you're selling to a big bank, medium-sized regional bank, or even a community bank, there's a lot of similarities. And what we've really tried to focus on is, certain banks are maybe more apt to use our software than others. And we've kind of figured out a sweet spot, the type of products that banks offers, the size of the bank, to really narrow in on our ICP. But then once once you have a prospect, it's running them through a fairly stringent process to where we can qualify them, as early as we can, and making sure that as they're putting us through their bank process, we're being diligent as well, so we don't waste time and we're fairly efficient. So, we have tried so many early on. I would say a few years ago, we tried a bunch of different ways to sell into banks. Do we go with a more product-led strategy? Is there kind of an SMB type angle where it's a bit more transactional? And given the way banks work, kind of their culture and the type of software we sell and the deal sizes that we're doing, which are 5 or 6 figure ACVs, it's still very much an enterprise motion. So we've figured out how to, how do you get as efficient and focused as possible in that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Even with the smaller players, I don't see banks as being that type of a group that would want to move quickly on much anything. So I totally get where you're coming from there. I want to know, for your company Encapture, how did it come to be? Where did this come from?
Yeah, it's a funny story. The company's been around actually 25 years. And as you look at me, people are like, you don't even look like you're 25 years old, Will. So I joined the company about 4.5 years ago. We started selling other automation software into banks and lenders, really into a bunch of different industries. We were a big partner for a large software company, and we would help them sell and implement their software kind of in a professional services role. And then over time, our company built our own product Encapture that really made the document collection, upfront collection and processing of documents, getting the important data out, made that a lot more efficient. And so we would kind of reactively sell that alongside our big partner. When I joined 4.5 years ago, we had a pretty dramatic shift in our strategy where we wanted to take our little product Encapture and make that the focus of the company and say, hey, there's a lot of opportunity using AI, using machine learning to read documents, extract important data, validate that data. And given we have this expertise in banking, let's see how we can go solve problems for banks. And so the journey over the last 4.5 years has been really transitioning away from our legacy partners and turning kind of a legacy professional services model into a more pure play software as a service business model. So it's been people ask, well, did you found the company? I did not found the company. I will never take credit for that, but almost every single thing is new over the last 5 years, including the name of our company. So we hit a hard reset, and it's been a really fun journey. It's been really hard, really challenging. I think that's something that a lot of CEOs or founders are starting to talk about more. But there's kind of this sometimes this social media facade that it's that everybody's loving every minute of it, and like there are days, weeks, months that are just really hard. And we've had those moments. But overall, it's been a fantastic journey. It's been a ton of fun. I've got a great group of about 50 employees here. And we get to solve some really kind of hairy, thorny issues for these banks and lenders that bring a lot of value and help them be a lot more efficient internally.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you shared that it's hard, because we're all going through it. It's very difficult to grow a company and to scale a company and get it to where we want it to be. And we've all been there. The ups and downs are real. And everybody on this show that's listening right now, I'm sure, has felt that same sort of thing. So I appreciate you letting us know that happens. And it looks great from the outside sometimes, but you're really down deep kind of pushing and trying to make things happen. So that's so cool that you're in the teeth of it, making it happen well. So you mentioned also, you've taken over this company after a long time. It's been around for quite a while. Tell me about what that was like, taking over. And it sounds like you came up with some new ideas. You said everything's new. What was that shift like? And was it received really well, or did it take some effort to make sure the team was bought in?
Yeah, no, it was tough. It was tough. When I started, the existing team at the company had been around, kind of been here a long time, and was very comfortable with the way things were being done. When I came in, it was a different direction for the company. It was a different strategy. It was a different focus. And, what I asked folks to do was, hey, can you buy into this idea of maybe suspending the way you've done things in the past and think about how we do it differently? Candidly, we were not successful making that happen with the people we had. Out of the first, 35 or 37 employees we have like 2 or 3 left.
Wow.
The original team. Yeah. And, It's really hard to come in and change an organization, especially one that's been around for a while. It's hard for people to kind of think differently about how they're going to approach their job and do things differently. So, it started with setting a very clear direction for the company, something that wasn't really there when I started. Like, who do we want to be? Who are we today? Who do we want to be? Where are we trying to go? And then, how we get there mostly was a function of I would say it was a mindset and a buy-in to a culture. And that's what was hard for some folks. I had a lot of folks that I would have loved to have kept working here and be part of our team today. And they had the technical skill sets to do that, but they just weren't bought into the strategy. And, that's okay. Like they have the choice to do that. But ultimately it was a lot better, healthier for us to just bring in fresh folks who didn't have the legacy history, baggage, assumptions, and just say, hey, here's who we are today. Here's who we're trying to be, buy into that, and let's go figure it out. So, that, I guess that would be my word of encouragement. If you're running a business and you feel like you have maybe a legacy employee base and you're struggling to really affect change, it's very hard to get a legacy group of folks to kind of to change. And so, one thing I was really worried about when I first got here, and even my first year or two, is I felt like a lot of these folks had kind of this institutional knowledge or this tribal knowledge of our business, of our industry. And I was really fearful that if they left, we wouldn't be able to replicate it, or we wouldn't be able to go backfill for that. What I've learned is it's a lot easier to backfill and replicate that information, that knowledge base, that skill set, than I thought it would be. And it's so much more refreshing to get in people that have the right mindset, buy into the culture, and really lean into the challenges that you're facing. Every business has so many problems. I mean, so many problems. And so really, I think, especially if you're a fast growing business or you want to be growing quickly, by nature, you will have there will just be a lot of things that need to get solved. And so if you have people on your team who kind of embrace that and they say, hey, look, I'm going to show up today and try to figure out something new and do the very best I can and not get overwhelmed by all the problems or struggles, those people do really, really well. And it was surprising how quickly we could push through some of that stuff. So it's definitely been a journey. I do think setting a very clear vision for the company up front was important. I also think defining culture, like what type of organization do you want to run? Do you want to have? We had to set up core values. What are our core values at the company? We set up kind of a list of attributes around being a high-performing workplace environment. What does that mean to be a high-performing workplace? We have 8 or 10 kind of attributes that we use to characterize that. We went through some formal training where we hired a moderator to come in for a couple of days and actually walk us through that. And again, this was all about laying a foundation so that as you go about your day, making decisions, making choices, how do I deal with this angry customer? I feel like I have too much on my plate. How do I prioritize? There's friction internally with a colleague, maybe on a different team. How do I handle that? Because we had this base foundation of core values and kind of characteristics of a high performing workplace environment, we were able to point back to that. And that was a great way for people to either learn how to be part of this organization, or for people to look at that and say, you know what, I don't think I can do that, or I don't think I want to. And it was time for them to move on.
We'll be right back. Scale Your SaaS is supported by ToroWave. Lots of software leaders I talk to are looking to scale their SaaS. And I keep hearing over and over about one major struggle: getting ghosted by buyers after the demo. How frustrating is it when you have a great demo, you're feeling good, they like it, it seems like a done deal, and then crickets, nothing. You reach out, they're not responding to you at all. And when these software companies, they ask me to dive in, I notice that these sellers are following up the wrong way, or actually I should say with the wrong medium. What they're doing is they're hammering emails over and over again. I got a news flash for you. Email effectiveness is dwindling down and down every year. So why beat your head against the wall losing all kinds of business? Start texting, mix in texts along with emails and calls, and watch your conversion rates go up. In fact, fact, conversion rates go up by about 50% when you use texting as part of the follow-up. People are used to it. And did you know the response rate on texts is 98%? 98%. So why throw emails into a black hole knowing that they're never going to get returned? Text buyers and get results. But don't use your own phone. All kinds of security and compliance issues if you do. Also, none of that data is with your company. That's not good. Instead, use this system, ToroWave. ToroWave is designed for sales. It makes texting with buyers super simple and fast, and it helps drive more deals. Deals that you've been losing until now. For being a listener, you get 50% off your first month of using ToroWave. 50% off. Just go to torowave.com/scale. That's TOROWAVE.com/scale. Get signed up and start winning more deals like Tracy, who closed $170,000 in 3 days after starting. Again, go to torowave.com/scale. Catch up and win by texting with ToroWave. And we're back. I agree with that. I've seen that in the best organizations I've been a part of and run, is that once you have those core values, you can hire based off of it, you train based off of it, you make decisions every day based off those values that you've come up. And it kind of becomes your roadmap, your guide, so to speak, to be able to run the whole company. And I think it's powerful. And something you said earlier really resonated. You said that the legacy team had become comfortable. And a lot of what I see when I'm coaching businesses is I see that sometimes they're not hungry enough, and the team is a little too comfortable with what's going on. And that's not a good place for anybody to be. And I don't even like when I get a little too comfortable. I see myself lax a little bit. And it's something where, like you said, the team now is hungry for challenges, and they're looking to try and get ahead. I bet you see a completely different dynamic amongst the team.
Yeah, it's been night and day. There's a concept of kind of having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is, hey, this is just the way things are. I can't do anything to change it. I'm comfortable where I am. I don't want to learn anything new. And then a growth mindset is, look, I'm always learning. I'm always getting better. I have room to improve. I'm humble enough to admit that I don't have it all figured out. And that's something we really look for here when we go and hire and recruit is, do folks have a growth mindset? And that looks different for different people. We've got, call it developers that are more intellectually hungry, right? They like learning and solving new, big, hard problems. We've got sales reps that are more traditionally kind of, they have the mentality and mindset of just waking up every day and kind of going to battle and saying, hey, I'm going to make my calls, send out my notes, follow up on this opportunity. I'm going to be meticulous about my process. It's just like if you're an athlete at a high level, you have to have, strict training and discipline in the way that you approach your sport to be successful. And it's the same thing in a company. You have to have a plan. You have to be willing to discipline yourself and kind of put yourself under the plan and under the process that you're going through. And then through that, you start seeing the results you want to see. And, if you're doing that collectively across different functions of your business, you look up and the business is doing really cool stuff.
I love it. Great analogy. As a former athlete and somebody who loves sports myself, I absolutely see the connection there. So really love that you did that. But I want to know, looking back, what were some of the initiatives that you put in place that helped the company and were things that really helped Encapture move forward?
Yeah. So the first thing was what we just talked about. It was that culture and that set of kind of core values and saying, who are we? What type of person do we want to have here? How do we want our customers to perceive us? How do we relate to each other? And again, that sounds kind of very squishy, but it's critical. I mean, if you're in a relationship or you have a spouse or it's the same, you kind of do the same thing. Like, what kind of relationship is this going to be? What are the foundational principles upon which we have a relationship? Because if you don't have a foundation or a set of principles, the relationship won't last. So that was really, really critical at first to get the right type of person in here. The thing after that we really had to ideate on, and was just process. I think, well, let me put it like this. As we were setting the foundation and the culture, and as we started building out process, candidly, we needed to really narrow our focus as a company in terms of who we sell to, what that buyer ICP looks like, what the process looks like. When 4 or 5 years ago, we were mostly selling to banks, but we were selling into insurance. We were selling into state and local government. We were selling to some Fortune 500 companies. We got all sorts of random kind of, we'd find these RFPs for random stuff that we could do with our technology, but it was maybe more of a one-off type situation. And we decided to get really, really narrow and really and really focused. And so if you look at even our go-to-market today, it's very, very narrow in terms of who we're trying to target, the messaging we're using. Even though our platform can do 1,000 different things and solve 1,000 different use cases, we're really going to market with like two, and so that allowed us to be a lot more focused, and then put a lot of process around, whether that's our sales process or sales methodology or delivery, implementation of our software, or even from a product roadmap perspective. We had a lot more discipline within a process, and we could look at what's working, what's not. We could hold ourselves accountable to that. We could hold our team accountable to that. And I think that allowed us to kind of innovate quicker, understand where we're not good quicker, and have some insights into like how do we run this business better? If you don't have process or kind of a standard way of doing stuff and you can't track it, it's going to be really hard to measure progress or to understand where you're doing well or where you're falling short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously process is huge. Everybody listening knows that that's a big focus for me, but I love that you narrowed your niche and you said we've got to focus on these particular prospects and customers, because it just makes everything within the business run so much easier. It makes your marketing more focused, more tight, makes the buyers realize that you are perfect for them specifically, which is amazing. So I love that that's a great success for you. I want to flip it and ask maybe a more uncomfortable question. What were some of the things you did that didn't go well and you wish, I wish that didn't happen?
Yeah, man, I've done so many things wrong. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, like there's so many.
Kudos to you for admitting that.
Yeah, well, it's easy to remind myself of that sometimes because we're still living with the consequences of those things. I would say holding on to people too long that you just know aren't a fit. Trying to kind of from the goodwill in your heart, trying to make them fit here is just not, or hoping that they are going to have a different attitude or mindset. It's just delaying the inevitable. So I think there's a few folks I wish I had made some changes a bit earlier in the process. I think we just would have been able to move faster. And so that's one. Early on, as we were narrowing our ICP, we tried different things, which I'm not ashamed of trying, like selling into different markets or different ICPs, or going and trying to do a new use case. Like, again, because our software can handle a lot of different use cases, sometimes you hear something, you're like, oh, I think we could do that. And then you get into it and you can't. And so we've wasted some time and energy trying out different stuff. And again, do I regret that? Some of those decisions were probably well-placed bets. I'm glad I made the bet. It just didn't turn out. Some of them, I'm like, well, I think I could have been a little bit smarter going into that, and maybe just turn that type of business away. Those are probably the big two. Is like, you got to try stuff, especially as a CEO or a leader. You have to, if it's not working, you have to be able to try different things. But as long as it's kind of staying core to your mission and the vision for your business, I think that's okay. I think if it starts veering outside of that because maybe there's a big dollar amount tied to it, or it's a big deal, or it's a cool brand name, or it's kind of like, oh, well, this could become maybe a secondary market for us to go after, I think that's where you can get yourself in trouble. So the kind of the couple things that come top to mind there.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And as we wrap up here, what advice would you have for other software leaders who are kind of following the same path and want to be able to grow and create this successful business? What would you share with them?
Just stick with it. I think that's the hard thing. I've been, in this role now almost 5 years, and it's hard. It's hard to treat it as a marathon. It's easy to sprint, right? You kind of see the next quarter's goals, or you see that next big deal, or you see that next kind of push and kind of put yourself into that. I would say, keep healthy perspective. It's so easy to get sucked in as well and see, and just kind of let this become all consuming. So I would encourage people, figure out a way in your life to, I won't say have balance, because there's no such thing as balance. If you're a CEO or founder of like an actual real company that's growing and doing well, it will be all consuming. And that's just your personality is probably going to be like that way in the first place to even be in that type of role. And if you're growing and you're doing well, there's just a lot to do. But figure out ways to create space away from work in your life, whether that's with family, friends, your physical health and physical exercise is huge. It's something that I was really good about. And then in COVID, I stopped and I felt it very quickly. And then have kind of gotten back into taking care of myself physically, and it's made all the difference. So take care of yourself. Make sure you've got community. It can be isolating to be a founder and CEO. Make sure you've got community around you that can support you and love you, and they don't care anything about your business or how successful you are or how much you fail. And thankfully, I've got 3 young kids at home that are like 4, 2, and I've got an infant like 6 months old, and they don't even know, like they could not tell you what I do for a living, and they don't care.
You're their world.
Yeah, but when I come home from work, they are so excited to see me, so find things like that. But it's hard to build a business. It's hard to run a business. I love it. It's so much fun. It's so invigorating. But if you want to do well, and really the folks that I found have done really, really well in this, they figure out ways to sustain themselves over longer periods of time and not get burned out. And I think that's something I've had to learn myself over the last few years.
Yeah, I would agree. Very, very cool advice. I hope everybody soaks it up and takes it to heart. Will, this has been awesome. How can our audience learn more about you and Encapture?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. You can head to encapture.com. You can check us out on LinkedIn. We sell into big, boring banks, so like there's no TikTok for us. Our buyers are not there. But would love to find you online. If you ever have questions or need help with anything, let me know. I'd be happy to help.
That's awesome. We'll put all that into the show notes. He's Will Robinson. Will, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everybody else out there, thanks for coming. Thanks for listening and watching. Glad you're here. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. And we are looking for reviews. So if you think this is helpful stuff, please give us a review showing others that this is something they can listen to as well. So thanks for being here, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Scale Your SaaS. For more help on finding great leads and closing more deals, go to mattwolach.com.